The summer didn't end. It paused, and then dropped a secret that changes everything. Right after that Paris finale, when it felt like the book was closed, a new door swung open. The final chapter isn't a season. It's a movie. One last chance to answer the question everyone keeps asking. Is this love strong enough to survive real life? You felt it in that last scene. Belly in Paris, finally light again, finally her own person, and then Conrad at the door. A rush of hope, a nod of fear. It wasn't closure. It was a cliff. The movie is the leap, and here's the hook you came for. This story isn't just heading toward a reunion. It's heading toward a wedding. Not a fast, ribbon-wrapped ceremony, but the long, complicated road that leads there. The road that forces everyone to tell the truth about who they are and what they want. If you think that's easy, keep listening, because the hardest part hasn't started yet. The idea sounds simple. After 3 seasons of push and pull, the movie seals the deal. But the truth is sharper than that. The show gave us beach summers, breakups, makeups, and the ache that lives between 2 brothers. The movie promises the cost. What does it take to build a future when your past sits at the table with you? What happens when the person you're marrying is also your ex's brother? What happens when love grows up? Let's rewind to the promise behind the movie. 3 seasons weren't enough to finish this the right way. A season would add more detours. A movie forces focus. No filler, no wandering. Just the question at the center. Can Belly and Conrad choose each other every day when the summer glow fades and the choices get heavy? That's why the wedding matters. Not because of dresses and cake, but because marriage is a decision you keep making when life gets hard. That decision is the real story. Start with Belly. Paris looked like freedom. She felt new. She felt clean. Then the past knocked. You could call it fate. You could call it gravity. Either way, the part of her that has always reached for Conrad woke up. But the person she was becoming didn't disappear. That tension, between the girl who finally stood alone and the woman who still wants him, sits at the center of every scene that's coming. If she moves toward marriage, she has to answer a simple question in a hard way. Can she love Conrad without losing the self she fought to find? Now bring in Conrad. He's not just a crush. He's a history. He's grief, duty, and the kind of love that makes and unmakes you. He has wanted Belly for years, and he has pushed her away for just as long. He can say the words now. He can show up. But vows don't fix old patterns. When stress hits, he shuts down. When he hurts, he hides. Married life doesn't soften that. It magnifies it. The movie will test him, not in grand romantic gestures, but in daily choices, talking when it's easier to disappear, staying when he wants to run, listening when silence feels safer. That's the real character arc. And it's not guaranteed, and Jeremiah, people say he's moved on. He's building a life that doesn't orbit Belly. He is learning to put his hands back into something that feeds him, step by step. On paper, that's healing. In practice, it's a scar with memory. It itches when the weather changes. He can find a new love. He can smile. He can mean it. But there's a moment coming when he will stand in a room and watch the 2 people who broke him try to build something permanent. That moment will be quiet. It will also be a storm. Not jealousy for drama's sake, but grief with nowhere to go. You can't erase a triangle when the corners share a last name. Holidays don't forget. Family photos don't forget. And guilt never forgets. That's why the film won't skip ahead to a tidy I do. It has to slow down. It has to show the days and weeks where love gets tested in small human ways. Long distance. Missed calls, letters, yes, letters. The kind you write when you can't trust your voice to carry the whole truth. The books used a letter from Susannah to bless this love, to say, go on. The show has saved that beat. Imagine Belly opening handwriting that feels like summer itself, hearing the voice of the woman who saw this ending long before the kids did. That letter is not just permission, it's pressure. It says love can be bigger than pain. It also says, don't lie about the pain, then there's family. You don't get to marry someone without marrying their history. Belly has to walk back into rooms where every glance has a memory in it. Her mother will remember every night she watched her daughter cry. Her brother will remember every fight and every fragile apology. Friends will pretend not to keep a scorecard. And Jeremiah will stand there being both past and future, whether anyone wants that or not. That's the kind of conflict no one can talk away. You sit with it, you breathe through it, you bleed a little. The movie has to let us feel all of that. Here's another hook. This isn't a story about perfect people learning perfect lessons. It's a story about messy people trying to do one brave thing: keep choosing each other. The show dressed that truth in beach light. The film will put it under winter lamps and airport gates and kitchen sinks at midnight. It will ask, after the magic, what's left? If the answer is still love, then love has to look like work. Take the wedding planning itself. Every choice becomes a test. Which venue? Whose traditions? Who sits where? Who gives the toast? On the surface, those are small decisions. Underneath, they are maps of loyalty and loss. Each one asks Conrad to show up with openness. Each one asks Belly to protect her own voice. Each one asks both of them to hold space for Jeremiah's pain without letting it steer their ship. If they can't do that here, how will they do it when life throws something bigger? The biggest theme hiding underneath all of this is timing. The actors will be older. The characters will be older. That's not a cosmetic shift. It's the point. This is not the story of teenagers who fell in love on a porch. This is the story of adults who will live with the consequences of that porch forever. Careers matter. Distance matters. Bills matter. Grief doesn't soften just because you want a happy ending. Adulthood is the filter that clarifies what was fuzzy in the summer sun. It asks, without mercy, is your love strong enough to live where you live, not where you dreamed you'd live? Let's zoom in on Belly again, because everything flows through her choice. She wanted to be free of the triangle. Paris felt like proof that she could exist without old gravity. Then she opened her door. The movie will find her standing in that doorway long after the scene ends. She will have to decide whether she can hold two things at once: the woman she is becoming and the man she has always loved. That is not a romantic montage. That is a practice. Can she set boundaries? Can she say, I need you to talk to me, and wait for a real answer? Can she forgive herself for the damage that her choice caused without making her whole life about paying for it? If the answer is yes, then the wedding is a celebration. If the answer is no, then the wedding becomes a wait. Now, a hard truth. The fandom will split no matter what happens. If the couple gets the bright ending, some will say it's too neat after so much pain. If the ending is bittersweet, others will say the story betrayed the promise. That's why the word final matters. A final chapter closes a door you can't reopen. It gives you peace or it gives you ache, but it gives you something you can't keep arguing your way out of. This movie has to choose clarity over comfort. That's honest storytelling. Honesty is also why Jeremiah's new life can't be a side note. He might be building something steady. He might be laughing again. But deep down, there is a version of his future he will never live. He won't say that out loud. He might not even let himself think it. Yet the wedding brings that truth to the surface. Grief and pride will fight inside him. He will try to be kind. He will try to be brave. He will win most days. He will lose some. Those losses are not villain moments. They are human ones. They don't make the couple wrong for moving forward. They make the movie real. Let's talk about Conrad through a different lens. He has always carried his love like a secret he was afraid to break. Part of him believed that if he kept it close enough, it would be safe. But love starved of air grows brittle. The movie will force him to do the one thing he has avoided. Speak early, speak clearly, speak even when it might start an argument, and then stay in the room until it turns into understanding. That's not his habit. That's his homework. If he can learn it, he will be the partner Belly needs. If he cannot, the past will repeat just with rings on. There's another piece of this puzzle that matters more than it seems. Letters. Writing is slower than talking. It makes you think. It makes you tell the truth you dodge in conversation. Long distance will require that kind of truth. The pages Belly and Conrad send will either knit them together or reveal a gap they can't cross. And somewhere in that pile, the letter from Susannah waits like a lighthouse. She wanted them to be happy. She believed they could be. Her words will carry hope and a warning. Love is beautiful, and love is fragile. Handle it gently. Family scenes will carry the heaviest weight. Belly's mother will have to hold two instincts at once: protect her daughter and trust her judgment. Stephen will have to be a brother to Belly and a friend to the boy who hurt her and the boy who lost her. Friends will whisper, then hug, then whisper again. Some of it will be kind, some will be petty. All of it will be human. That's the ground the movie has to walk. Not giant betrayals, not melodrama, just the small frictions that, if ignored, turn into cracks. You might be wondering, do they actually make it to the aisle? Here's the honest answer the story has been circling for 3 seasons. Getting together is not the same as staying together. The movie will not earn a ceremony with grand gestures or last-minute rescues. If there is a wedding, it will be because they learned the skills love needs: apology without defense, boundaries without punishment, truth without cruelty, and the daily choice to be teammates. If they cannot learn those, the kindest ending is the one that hurts now, not later. There's a reason the beach will feel different if we see it again. For years, Cousins Beach has meant firsts. First crush, first fight, first kiss, first goodbye. The film shifts the meaning. Now the beach is a memory they must choose to honor without living inside it. That's adulthood again. You don't throw away the old magic. You carry it while you build something that can stand in the rain. Let's trace the beats that are likely to shape this story from first frame to last heartbeat. Belly reads a letter that makes her cry in the way that heals and hurts at once. She tries to bring her new self into an old love without shrinking. Conrad shows he can stay open when pressure spikes. Jeremiah lets himself feel without exploding the room. The families argue, forgive, and then argue again. Plans change, plans break, plans get made again. The couple faces a night where they almost give up and then chooses not to. Or they face a morning where they realize the bravest choice is to stop before they promise what they cannot keep. Both are honest endings. Only one is happy. There's also the question of work and distance. Careers don't slide to the side for a love story. The couple will have to decide whose dream bends, whose dream waits, and whose dream gets rewritten. Resentment starts as a whisper. If they don't name it, it grows. If they do, it shrinks. That's the rhythm the film has to catch. Not fireworks, conversations. If the story leans hopeful, here's what that hope will look like. Not perfection, not a fairy tale montage, but 2 people choosing each other in the same room as the brother who loved one of them first, the mother who doubts and believes in the same breath, and the memory of a woman who saw the end before anyone else did. The ring matters, the vows matter. But the meaning sits in a simple action: show up tomorrow, then the next day, then the next. If the story leans bittersweet, it will still be honest. It will say, we loved each other the best we could, and the best we could is not enough for a lifetime. That is not failure. That is truth. It would give Jeremiah space to become someone whose joy doesn't depend on a door being open. It would give Belly the ownership of a choice that honors the woman Paris helped her become. It would give Conrad a path to learning openness without breaking someone he loves while he learns it. It would hurt. It would also set everyone free. Either way, closure is coming. Not the kind that erases pain, but the kind that names it and lets you keep walking. The movie is built to give that. It has the structure to do it. One focused arc, no detours. All the weight on the relationships that matter and the themes that have always lived under the dialogue: love versus guilt, fantasy versus reality, summer versus life. So where does that leave us before the first scene rolls? With one last hook. This ending will not make everyone happy, but it can make the story whole. The characters have grown. The choices are bigger. The cost is real. The question is simple and impossible at the same time. Can Belly and Conrad turn a long summer into a long life? And if not, can they let each other go without breaking what's left of the family that brought them together? Hold that question. It's the spine of the movie. Here's what to watch for as the story unfolds. Does Conrad speak before the silence grows teeth? Does Belly defend her new self when the old patterns knock? Does Jeremiah let himself be present without setting himself on fire? Does the letter from Susannah light the way without blinding anyone to the truth in front of them? Do the small choices, who apologizes first, who compromises, who listens, add up to a future that can breathe? If those answers stack in the right direction, the aisle makes sense. If they don't, courage will look like stepping back. The beauty of a final chapter is that it chooses. It does not hedge. It does not wait for another season to fix what feels off. It tells you what this love is and what it is not. It lets you grieve and smile at the same time. In the end, this story was never just about who Belly ends up with. It was about the kind of person she becomes on the way there. The brotherhood that gets tested but does not have to break, and the way a mother's love can be both a shield and a mirror. It was about a woman named Susannah who believed love could outlast pain and left a letter to say so. It was about the strange, ordinary bravery of learning to be happy without pretending the past didn't happen. The summer didn't end. It grew up. The movie will show us what that looks like. Maybe we'll get an honest smile at an altar. Maybe we'll get an honest goodbye on a quiet morning. Either way, the answer will be true. And sometimes, true is better than happy. Sometimes, true is the only way this story could finish. So ask yourself the last question. Do you want perfect or do you want honest? Because this final chapter is choosing honest. And if you stay to the end, you might find that honest is exactly what you were waiting for all along.